Today I am showing you some of the cheapest, best cards to get as a free-to-play player. Now not only that, you might still want to craft these even if you're not a free-to-play player. So no matter what, if you're new to Master Duels or you just want to get a little extra tip, stick around, watch this, you might actually get some value here. So first of all, we have Drawl and Lockbird. Drawl and Lockbird is an incredible card. It is a hand trap, and now it is not the strongest hand trap in the game. The strongest hand trap in the game is probably Max C, and after that Ashe Blossom, but all of the good hand traps are usually ultra rares. Max C Ultra, Ashe Ultra, Imperm Ultra, Nibiru Ultra, Effect Failure Ultra as well. They're all ultra, but for some reason, Drawl is a super rare, and that is much easier. This is of course meta dependent. Not every single meta at all times will be a good point to use Drawl, but if you are looking to craft some hand traps, maybe you have super rare crafting material left over, let's say, then this is a way to get access to a good hand trap. Beyond that, let's say you have a crossout designator and your deck dies to Drawl, then maybe it's also good to craft just one so you can cross out it when your opponent uses it against you. So overall, Drawl, super good bang for your buck, even just at one. I would recommend it, but again, it's meta dependent. Next we have Ashe. Now obviously Ashe is a ultra rare, so I'm not telling you that this is budget friendly and that you need to go craft it right now, but if you've watched my guide yesterday, and if you haven't, what are you doing? Go check that guide after this video. But essentially, if you buy a bundle deal, you get a free Ashe. One of the bundle deals is an Ashe, and again, if that means nothing to you, go check that video. It is super important to not waste gems that you have watched that video, but you get one free Ashe. So here's your free Ashe, right? Free to play, just like that. You have access to the arguably second strongest hand trap in the game at one copy right then and there. Next up, Raigeki. Now once again, Raigeki is a ultra rare, but again, if you've done the solo mode thing like we mentioned in the video, you already have one free Raigeki. Now this is one of those cards that you're gonna be cutting later on, likely, as you get more cards, better cards, archetype specific stuff and so forth, but it is still a powerhouse of a card. Still gets around quite some fields, not all of them. The strongest top tier meta fields usually play around Raigeki pretty easily, but when you are free to play, when you don't have the completely optimal list just yet, having a free Raigeki is pretty cool. So don't go crafting this card, you get a free copy. In a similar vein, Monster Reborn is just like that, you get a free one. Is it the best card in the game? Definitely not, but it's free and it's very strong, much stronger than all the starter deck cards and all of that free stuff that you get at the start. And finally, in that vein, you also have your reinforcement of the army. So once again, this is a free card. This is a pretty weird one in the sense that it's only good in warrior based decks. So maybe you play Infernoble or Elemental Hero or Phantom Knights or something like that. Then this card is solid, otherwise it's not meaning much to you, but again, it's free. It's a free ultra rare. Now next on this list we have a super rare, and I promise we're gonna go away from all the supers and ultras very soon now. There's some really good rares on this list as well, but we have Pot of Desires. Now this is again deck specific. Not every single deck is gonna use this card, but a lot of them do. So when it comes to bang for your buck crafting, this one is pretty high up on that list. Draw 2 is incredible, and a lot of decks don't actually care about banishing the top 10 cards. The cost is negligible, and here you go, you know, drawing free cards. Incredibly powerful card, and because it's so generic, it works in a lot of decks. So while if you craft a specific SR that's specific for one of your decks, you won't be able to use it in other decks, because maybe it's an Elemental Hero card, but your other decks are Blue Eyes, or maybe it's Tri-Brigade, or maybe it's this and that. This card, since it's so generic, you can put it in all of your decks. Now it won't fit as well in all of them, but in a lot of them it will. Next, another ultra rare, we have Lightning Storm. Once again, I'm not telling you to go craft this, but you get a free one. If you follow the tutorial, if you haven't wasted your gems on random packs like that, you have a free Lightning Storm. Very strong blowout card. So once again, boom, you have access to a strong card like that. Now we get into the cheaper cards. And so we have on this list Mystical Space Typhoon. If you've listened to the tutorial and you chose the Synchro deck as your start deck, you already have this card. But if you didn't, it can still be good to craft. It's again gonna be meta dependent, because if there's not a lot of spell and trap decks in a given meta, then maybe it's not the greatest card. But if there are spell and trap decks in a meta, and you don't have the crafting material for Twin Twister, Cosmic Cyclone, Lightning Storm, or Harpy's Feather Duster, this is still a really solid staple that you can slot into literally any deck and then get rid of some of those spell and traps. And once again, it's merely a rare, so you'll have plenty of crafting material for a card like this. Next on the list of really solid rares, we have Forbidden Chalice. So like I mentioned in that guide yesterday, this card, absolutely incredible. It is basically a diet Forbidden Droplets. Now, Forbidden Droplets is an amazing staple, incredibly powerful card, but it is a ultra rare. You don't necessarily have the playset of that, but this Forbidden Chalice is a worse version of that card sometimes, but sometimes it's even better than Droplets. Depends on the situation, but it's a rare. You have plenty of material to make a rare. So once again, boom, you make 3 of this, you're not gonna notice it, and you can splash it into literally any deck you have. Next, we have Torrential Tribute. Now, this one is a little bit worse than what we just discussed. In my opinion, Chalice you'll throw into anything and have a great time. Torrential Tribute isn't quite that strong. However, when people don't have the best ultimate highest tier decks yet, and some people do, I know what's going on. I know some people are completely ready to destroy everyone, but in general, you know, there's still plenty of people running decks that currently die to Torrential Tribute. And once again, this is merely a rare. So you craft this, and sometimes you can just randomly have a blowout by running this. It's kind of like the Raigeki. Once you have all of the good staples and so forth, you might end up cutting this. But otherwise, when you don't, or maybe you made specific cards for one deck and now your second deck is kind of lacking, you can literally craft this one rare and sometimes get your blowout wins of it. But again, once you've been crafting crazy amounts of really strong cards, it's probably out. Next, in a similar vein, we have Compulsory Evacuation Device. This is again a rare, and again, it's going to be one of those cards that you do want to cut, probably, once you get into those higher echelons, the highest tiers with the best cards, best decks, best archetypes, and everything. However, this card doesn't destroy. So there's quite a few cards in the best decks that have anti-destruction clauses, and so Torrential Tribute doesn't do much to them, Raigeki doesn't do much to them, even Lightning Storm doesn't do much to them. But the Compulsory Evacuation Device often gets around them because they aren't being destroyed but rather being returned. So again, depending on the meta, this might be decent, and again, it's just a rare. So when you're looking for cards that aren't ultras because you don't have all of that endless crafting material, a mere rare might just give you a card that's better than all of the starter deck jank. And again, you can slot it into literally any deck. Next, we have Solemn Judgment. Again, this is a free card from the bundle deal, so if you've listened to the video, boom, you have one free Solemn. It's a very solid card. Now, a lot of decks, once you get into the higher echelons, again, you have like all of the best cards and so forth, they start cutting them. You might still find this in back row decks that are running a lot of traps, like maybe a very heavy trap Eldritch type of deck. They will still run this card, but the combo decks and so forth will not be running this card anymore. However, again, as long as you don't have the optimal, fully powerhouse decks yet, use the free Solemn. It's a very strong card. Now, finally, we have Skill Drain, and this is a little bit of a weird one. So this is a super rare, so again, you might want to watch out with that crafting material a little bit more than the rares, and it also shuts off your skills, but I will vouch for this card right now in the sense that a lot of strong combo decks, even the best decks we see right now, die to this card. So if you are playing a deck that isn't really reliant on its monster effects, maybe some kind of controlling Blue Eyes list, running Skill Drain can randomly just beat those combo decks. You go first, you open a Skill Drain, and if they didn't open Mystical Space Typhoon, which they might not be running, or Lightning Storm, which they might be running, and so forth, they're just dumb. They count out the Skill Drain, you're gonna win the game. Now again, this is very specific. Like, I play Phantom Knights right now, I'm not gonna play Skill Drain in that deck. But maybe you're playing Eldritch, then you might play Skill Drain in that deck. So it's definitely not for every deck. It's still something to keep in mind. I'm very happy that this is not an Ultra. So you can craft this a bit easier and maybe have an out to some of these heavy combo decks. Finally, in the extra deck, we have 2 more cards. Now again, these are supers, so not the easiest, but also not very hard. Essentially, the way I see it, most generic, good, strong cards in the extra deck are all Ultra. Like, if you go looking for your Appaloosa, Access Code, Boral Sword, like I have a bunch of them right here, look at them. They're all Ultra. Rusty, Cherubini, Kagari, Halka Fibrax, they're all ultras. These are two strong generic cards that are supers. Now, they're not game-breaking like an access code, for example. They're not turning the game around like that, but they're still pretty solid staples that you can slam into any deck. Any deck that can summon two monsters, which is almost any deck basically, can sometimes still be happy to go like, oh, I have two monsters, and together that forms a Kerberos, and this Kerberos blows up a monster from my opponent. Cool, I'm happy. I'm very happy with my Kerberos. You have a Nightmare Phoenix right here. Oh, I'm very happy that I was able to create this Nightmare Phoenix out of thin air, and now I get to destroy one of their spell or trap cards. Now again, you need to be kind of in a luxury position to make these, because of course, if you have a specific deck that needs a specific archetype, it's going to be better to have those strong specific archetype exegeses and links and so forth. But if you do have the extra SR crafting material, these are pretty solid and they're generic. So that was my list of 15 pretty solid cards that you could be crafting on a budget. You know, I didn't mention any ultra that you didn't get for free somehow. If you found this interesting, I also stream on Twitch, so you can follow me at the link in the description or at twitch.tv/realsolemn. I think when this video goes up, I will actually be live already. So you'll be able to check me playing, ask questions, hang out, whatever you want. Of course, also like this video, subscribe to this channel, and I will see you soon. Ciao.